Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Bea and I am from Thermoserver. Welcome to my kitchen. And today's little video is about a very versatile addition to your Thermomix. It's called a Thermoserver and something available here in Australia. There are a number of ways that you can get your hands on it, but I think the most important one is hosting a cooking experience with your family and your friends. Your requirement is just having 2 guests over and you'll be able to get one of these. So I'm going to run through them. This is the 2.2 litre Thermoserver. This is utilized for actually fitting inside your Varoma so you can make yogurt. So this is option number 1. Option number 2 is your 2.6 litre Thermoserver. This is very, very popular, one of our most popular options. And this comes with a little serving tray. I know sometimes customers are wondering, why on earth do you have this? It's fantastic for when you are entertaining people. You could be serving some other items alongside it, and it looks fantastic when you have it laid out on your table. So speaking of the last option, I would say this is the most popular option when it comes to entertaining. It's our 2.5 oval Thermoserver. This one's brand new. I've just pulled it out the box. And this is definitely a fantastic option to have when you are cooking meat. So if you are having a barbecue and you want to pop a couple of steaks or some sausages in here, you can just put your lid on and keep that warm. So I'm going to show you my 3 top tips, how to utilize these Thermoservers. And these are just my personal top tips. You may have some other suggestions perhaps, and I know there are many different options available. So put those in the comment section below how you use your Thermoserver or what your top tip is. So let's get started. Tip number 1, I'm just going to move these out the way. All right, this is the 2.6 litre one, and I would say this is the one that I generally use the most. I'm going to show you before I start telling you about the tips. If you have made anything inside your steaming basket, a really great thing so that you know is when you pull it out from your Thermomix, the bowl, you're actually going to be able to put that inside directly into your 2.6 litre Thermoserver. So just put your lid on and whatever you've cooked there will stay warm. Now these servers can keep items warm for 2 hours or cold for 2 hours. Obviously depending on if it's really humid. Obviously here in Queensland it might be a little bit less if you're keeping things cold. Anyway, that is a great little tip before I start with my top 3. So definitely using your basket and putting that directly into your server. So tip number 1, whenever you are bulk cooking, the best way, especially for example, if you're making waffles, pancakes, pikelets, in the morning, what you can do is boil your kettle and fill that up, most probably worth a centimetre worth of water. You don't have to be specific. And what you do is keep that lid on for a couple of moments, and then when you're ready to start putting or finish your product like your pancakes or your waffles, pour out that water, and then you can just dry that super quick, and your Thermoserver will keep warm a lot longer than you just putting your waffles or pancakes or bacon or whatever it is straight into your server and then putting the lid on. So this is a great way for you to heat this up. And while we are on this, because this is another great tip, tip number 2 is, I often will say to customers, when you are making things like bread or your bread rolls or anything where you're making a dough, what I would suggest for you to utilize your server to actually help pump up that volume when it comes to helping your yeast along. Heat will always help your yeast bloom a lot quicker. So I'm going to show you my second tip, which is I would do exactly this part where I filled it up with the hot water and put the lid on top. Then what I do is pull out my silicone mat. So let's just say I have made a batch of bread or pizza dough, because that is a very common thing in my house. And I will put this flat onto my countertop. I'll pull out the jug, turn the jug upside down, and use the little cog at the top and spin that and let the dough drop. Then what I will do is get my mat and just form that into a ball. And then what I'm going to do is, this is always a great thing. When you're looking at your mat, always cover up your dough a little bit bigger than what the size is, because you know that it's going to expand. And then what I do is I tuck in the side at the bottom, I tuck in the side at the other end, and then what I will do is put that on top of my Thermoserver just like that, and then get a clean tea towel and put that over like that, and leave that aside so that that can do its work. So that's tip number 2. And then the final tip, which I absolutely love for my Thermoserver, is actually cooking ingredients in it. And a lot of times when I say this at cooking experiences, I sometimes get a really weird look back, like, what are you talking about, Bea? How can you use this to cook? Well, it's pretty simple. I'm going to bring out the 3 ingredients that I love to cook inside my server. I would say this is my top one. So what I would do is pour in the hot water into my server with the full amount of capacity from my jug. So my kettle is 1.7 liters, so I'll fill that right up. And then what I do is put in my rice noodles and put my lid on top. All right, so usually 3 or 4 of these little portion sizes will fit inside there. That's usually enough for my family. And then this is going to be what is going to be your saving grace. So this applies for all 3 of these ingredients I'm going to mention about. You're going to pull out your fork in about maybe 3 or 4 minutes after you've placed the ingredients into your bowl. And this is very, very important. Reason being is you need to agitate the ingredients so that there is water getting into all those bits. I'll tell you why. There's been a couple of times where I've forgotten, it's not intentional, but I haven't stirred it with the fork, and everything inside there has just been one large clump of ingredients. So I've had to throw that away because it hasn't cooked properly, and I promise you this is going to be the saving grace. All right, so first one is my rice noodles. Second is wheat, and I specify this because gluten-free options do not work in this instance, but wheat pasta will definitely work in this. Same tip applies. After 3 or 4 minutes, make sure you come back and you agitate that. This will definitely stick together if you don't. Obviously do it according to what your packet says. Same applies with your rice noodles. And this is important because sometimes even with the indication on your packet, you may need to cook it a little bit longer because the heat is getting absorbed by the pasta. So if it says 8 minutes, sometimes I will cook it a little bit longer. But this depends all on what your preference is, your personal preference and your family's preference, how you prefer your pasta cooked. All right, if need be, you may need to come back and just top it up with some extra water. Sometimes I will look after 5 minutes to see if it has absorbed. Sometimes it comes right to the top of the surface of the water, and then I'll just add extra water and stir it and agitate it again with the fork. And then the third is couscous. So simple, so easy. 1 cup couscous, 1 cup water, and my favorite thing to add in is vegetable stock paste, and then whatever flavorings you would prefer. But this is a little bit different. You would pour that in, stir that around, and leave that. Usually up to 5 minutes. That will then cook perfectly. And again, the fork will come in handy at the end when you're going to fork or fluff, I should say, the couscous, and it will be cooked perfectly. This is definitely my go-to if I want to have something super, super quick and don't have time to cook rice, or I don't have time to do anything else besides. So these two are my go-tos, the rice version and couscous. So I hope these tips have helped you. As I say, please mention in the comment section below what is your favorite Thermoserver tip. I would love to know. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for another set of tips when it comes to your Thermomix. So join me at 5 p.m. and I'm looking forward to seeing you then. Take care.